Hello everyone and welcome to Sunburned Albino Defends the Quiet Man, a deeply misunderstood game that after re-evaluating my commitment to seeing it through is something I enjoyed. This video will not have spoilers. If you don't know, The Quiet Man is a short, couple-hour game published and promptly disregarded by Square Enix about a deaf youth's quest to save his mother from a deranged stalker, or so it would appear. The Quiet Man has been completely lambasted by most critics, with an aggregate review score of 30 out of 100 on Metacritic. User reviews have been more kind, averaging a 6.2 out of 10. It's been called many things: pretentious, rubbish, a train wreck, etc., by people who refuse to meet what the game's story demands of the player in order to be fully experienced. And to be fair, it asks a lot. Your first playthrough of The Quiet Man consists of playing through the entire game completely muted, with only muffled sound effects and compressed screeching coming through during times when sound is meant to be happening. Like I said, you play as a deaf character, so everything you experience is devoid of sound, and consequently meaning. You watch characters' lips move without hearing their voices, you watch cutscenes with no discernible context, you experience the entire game with only a faint idea of why. Beating the game once unlocks the ability to turn the sound back on, to hear dialogue, music, and sound effects, and to revisit the plot with the water out of your ears. Many people were so turned off by their initial foray, however, they didn't find it worth coming back to see the story piece itself together, and I think that's a mistake. Now you may ask, what if I just skip the muted game and watch it with sound the first time on a YouTube video or something? That's also a mistake. The story is structured in a way that both playthroughs are necessary to fully appreciate what's going on. The first playthrough asks questions, and the second answers them. If you're out there getting answers to questions you didn't know were asked, you're missing out on a fundamental part of the discovery aspect. But it's a big ask to play this game twice, though, because the combat is absolutely dreadful. The Quiet Man is a button-mashy, repetitive as all hell brawler. You fight clones and clones of the same 3 types of enemies, with a few cheap boss battles thrown in for bad measure. The game also never explains the controls in-game, and only shows a button readout explained by undetailed neon lights in the shape of what that button represents. For example, I didn't know until 90 minutes in that you could press L2 after landing a few hits to activate a buff that makes you much stronger and allows you to penetrate defenses and initiate auto takedowns. That would have been super helpful, because it trivializes half the bosses who are otherwise complete pains in the ass. The bosses are typically arbitrarily unstaggerable until you land enough single hits followed by immediate dodges to avoid their impending bullshit instant counterattacks, at which point you can then just mash square until they become unstaggerable again, and you repeat the process until a cutscene tells you you're done. There are a couple cool finishers, but it gets so repetitive so fast you'll pray for a bot to play the game for you. But behind this aggravating gameplay is a story that shouldn't be immediately overlooked. During your muted playthrough, you are not going to understand what is happening at all, and even if you do make a few inferences, they are likely to be wrong. Scenes are routinely not what they appear, and rewatching them with the sound on illuminates a lot in a pretty satisfying way. Almost every question that condescendingly incredulous hot-take YouTubers and reviewers were asking as they wallowed in their self-imposed and for some reason prideful ignorance is answered upon finishing the game the second time. And I understand where they're coming from. I myself had about a page-long script typed before I even finished the end of the muted playthrough that was just a bunch of jokes and ridicule aimed at an easy bandwagon target. Then I beat the game, and it teases you a few of the scenes with dialogue, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. I was wrong. Let's see how this plays out. Then I finished the game again. Then I deleted that script. The story doesn't blow any doors off, but it's intriguing, it hooked me, and I came away with it with a lesson about preconceptions. It is genuinely interesting to watch your suppositions get demolished as you view the scenes with added context. It completely reshapes the narrative in an experimental way that, unfortunately, has only paid off for a few dedicated people like me. You might not think it's worth shining the proper light, but you won't know unless you give it a shot. You were turned off, but you can always turn back on, and I recommend you attempt it before you write off an experience knowing only half of it. I spent $13 on The Quiet Man, and I don't regret it. There are 1 or 2 things I still don't fully understand about the plot, but for the most part, I accept what this game has shown me and give my thanks in return. The music and sound effects during combat are powerful, too, the second time around. It doesn't make it not suck, but it elevates the excitement at least a little. Well, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can like, share, and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at Sunburned Albino, and you can support the channel financially on Patreon at patreon.com/sunburnedalbino, and I'll see you guys next time.